A very, very good morning, Excellencies, distinguished dignitaries, special guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Please, for protocol and security purposes as we get ready to start this ceremony, may I please ask those who are not yet seated to kindly take their seats as the distinguished speakers for the opening ceremony enter the hall and come to the stage, please. I think it should be okay if we can give them a round of applause and welcome them into the hall. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. As you take your seats and we get ready for the official start of this event, just a few housekeeping announcements before the official start, please. May I mention that the locations of the restrooms are at the back of this hall. When you get out, immediately when you turn left, that will be the ladies' restroom. And when you turn right, my right, that will be the gentleman's restroom. May I also mention that interpretation devices are available for the 6 official languages of the United Nations, and that you can find at the very back next to the interpreters' booths. Please, may I beg everyone to kindly switch off your cell phones, your mobile phones, or just put them on silent or vibrate. I would also like to mention that we have coffee and snacks available in the middle of the exhibition area next door on my left. Finally, before we get into the official ceremonies, let me just give some good news that at 7 p.m. this evening, all of us, participants and invited guests, are invited to dinner at 7 p.m. This will be taking place at the Reem Al Bawadi restaurant on Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Boulevard in downtown Dubai. You don't have to worry about transportation. Buses will be provided from this venue on the left side entrance, the exhibition entrance. They will take you there to the dinner and take you back to your hotels. We thank you very, very much for your time and for your indulgence. Excellencies, Your Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein of Jordan, distinguished ladies, dignitaries at the high table and in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure now to welcome you very warmly to the Dubai World Trade Center for this high-level opening ceremony of the 2016 Global South-South Development Expo, which we are about to start. Before we go ahead, I think it will be proper for me to please ask all of you to thank the government and the people of the United Arab Emirates, represented by the Zayed International Foundation, for being the great host of this week-long event. Would you please give a round of applause as we thank them for hosting us? My name is Ben Dotse Malo. I'm from UN Radio at UN headquarters in New York. I'm glad to serve you this morning as the MC for this event. Why are we here today, distinguished excellencies, ladies and gentlemen? We are gathered under the theme South-South Cooperation, enhancing innovation towards achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Today, we are having this opportunity to show how sharing and exchanging of enhanced innovative solutions among nations of the Southern Hemisphere can boost those efforts towards the implementation and achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. How can we have tried and tested solutions in energy security or energy sufficiency from the United Arab Emirates, for example, to be used or applied by other southern nations? What about food security? Is there a solution pioneered by Brazil or by China that can be replicated in other nations of the global south? Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, these and other questions related to innovation, South-South cooperation, and the Sustainable Development Goals will be addressed at this 2016 Development Expo. It is now my singular honor, distinguished guests, Excellencies, to welcome to the podium and invite to the podium the UN Secretary General's Envoy on South-South Cooperation and Director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, Mr. Jorge Chediek, to give his introductory and welcome remarks. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Jorge Chediek.
Your Majesty, Queen Noor Al Hussein of Jordan, Mr. Patrice Gomez, Secretary General of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific Group of States, Mr. Tegenekpur Getu, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Associate Administrator of the United Nations Development Program, Ambassador Gyan Chandra Acharya, Under Secretary General and High Representative of the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island development states. Mr. Getachew Nguida, Deputy Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. Mr. Ibrahim Tiao, Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environmental Program. Mr. Doug Franz, Deputy Secretary General of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Your Excellency, Ambassador Mohamed Dudu, Law Director General of Economic Affairs of the Organization of Islamic Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, it is a great honor and privilege to welcome you to the United Nations Global South-South Development Expo 2016. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation is privileged to serve as the organizer and secretariat for this expo. We're extremely grateful to the Zayed Foundation for the Environment, on behalf of the government of the United Arab Emirates, for so generously hosting us and for providing us for such a welcoming environment and excellent facilities here in Dubai. I extend my special gratitude to the chairman of the foundation and to Dr. Alawar, Secretary General of the Zayed Foundation, who has worked tirelessly with our team over the last months to make possible for us to be here. 38 years ago, in Buenos Aires in 1978, member states entrusted the United Nations to support technical cooperation among developing countries. This year, member states have called for the commemoration of this event, BAPA Plus 40 in 2018, where we will focus South-South efforts towards achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This expo is a collective response to member states' demand for all partners to engage in and support South-South and triangular cooperation towards achieving the internationally agreed development goals, including the Sustainable Development Goals. Since we launched the Expo in 2008, together with the UN Development Program in New York, this Expo has grown to become a global and United Nations system-wide platform. For this, we have established partnerships with the World Bank, the ILO, the FAO, UNIDO, UNEP, and the Organization of American States for hosting annual expos, drawing attention to South-South successes and challenges within their respective focus areas. This expo has proved effective in bringing together development partners to establish new modalities of collaboration, South-South, North-South, and triangular, and also public-private partnerships. And this year, for the first time, the expo is being hosted by a country of the South. So therefore, I want to reiterate our gratitude to the United Arab Emirates, to the Zayed Foundation, and to Dubai for having us here. We are indebted to the 20 UN sister organizations that are participating, to more 90 member states that are represented here, 19 different nationalities, private sector CEOs, director generals of cooperation in many countries, civil society organizations, academia, and media, over more than 650 participants. With your support, I'm confident that this week's Expo will once again prove to be a fruitful platform for showcasing development solutions, building bridges, and forging innovative partnerships around providing solutions to sustainable development challenges. There are several instances during the conference where this can be possible, different instances of which we count on the participation of all of us. Dear participants, South-South cooperation, which began many years ago mostly as a political intention or commitment, has become now a real tool, a real instrument to build a better world we all need. We hope that this Expo will be another milestone in this expansion of this cooperation modality in which developing countries forge partnerships to build futures and learn from examples such as the one of Dubai and other successful countries in the South, so we can all build the world that we need for us and for our children. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Señor Jorge Chediek. Thank you very much, Mr. Chediek, for providing the context for this expo. We are very privileged to have as our keynote speaker this morning, Her Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein of Jordan. Queen Noor of Jordan is an international humanitarian who has been championing many global causes for peace, for understanding, and for sustainable development over many, many years. She is the chair of the King Hussein Foundation, which she founded in 1999 to promote humanitarian work around the world. She was an avid and strong advocate for the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, and she also spoke in the UN Security Council in New York for the elimination of nuclear weapons. Today, Queen Noor of Jordan comes to this podium to share her valuable views with us as the keynote speaker, to give us her wisdom, her views on our theme of enhancing innovation towards achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the podium Her Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein of Jordan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning. Welcome to the 8th Annual Global South-South Development Expo here in the United Arab Emirates. in the extraordinary emirate, Dubai. It is my privilege to join with all of you this morning. Let me begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the Zayed International Foundation for the Environment and its chairman, Dr. Mohammed Ahmed bin Fahad, for hosting this expo on behalf of the government of the United Arab Emirates at such a pivotal moment for our global commons. My thanks go as well to Ambassador Richard Nduhura, resident of the United Nations General Assembly High Committee, President on South-South Cooperation, and Jorge Chediak, Envoy of the United Nations Secretary General on South-South Cooperation and Director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. My thanks go to them for inviting me to join with you today. The United Arab Emirates was a particularly suitable choice to host this year's expo, enhancing innovation towards achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, as it has distinguished itself as a developing country model for its significant, innovative achievements and sustainability. This year's theme also provides a valuable lens through which to address the scale and ambition of the new inclusive agenda on sustainable development, adopted last September at the United Nations. As we meet here, it is appropriate to emphasize that cooperation among developing countries is nothing new. For centuries, they have been helping their neighbors in need, especially at times of humanitarian crisis. Since the 1990s, the idea of South-South cooperation has expanded rapidly. I remember well chairing in the early 1990s AU's advisory board for the pioneering Center for the Global South in Washington, D.C., where we examined sustainability and human security challenges in the context of South-South and North-South relations, with special emphasis on the environment, economic disparity, human rights, and population, issues which continue to bedevil us today. But as you've heard, today, the presence of South-South cooperation in international discourse is much stronger. And it is the context, of course, in which brings us here today to address how we all collectively can play a key role in advancing the development of goals promoted by the 2013 Agenda. The global development cooperation landscape is changing rapidly. Developing countries and emerging economies have become key actors, not only in trade and investment, but also in global and regional development. They have amassed rich, groundbreaking, and diversified development practices and are actively supporting each other to find practical and relevant policy solutions. I am particularly looking forward to this gathering's exchange of best practice models, which no doubt will be of incalculable benefit to us all. The new inclusive agenda on sustainable development and the associated sustainable development goals acknowledge the critical role South-South cooperation is playing in development. Official development assistance, ODA, and other official flows need to be smarter to catalyze and leverage all sources of financing needed for the goals, particularly towards more vulnerable, middle-income countries or states in transition that are severely impacted by regional and humanitarian crisis. Developing countries are also gradually demonstrating leadership in building common agendas and taking collective actions in order to address a multitude of challenges that cut across regional and national boundaries. South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation have increased the range of opportunities for development partnership. For many developing countries, they are offering a significant resource channel that is additional to and on different terms from official development assistance funds. Southern partnerships are vital in overcoming current development challenges and reaching internationally agreed development goals, including the 15-year Sustainable Development Goals, to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, complementing the traditional North-South model of development assistance, will also be critical in implementing this agenda. These goals will only be achieved through improved global partnership among UN, other multilateral institutions, NGOs, national, public, and private sectors, and civil society. One recent and heartening example of the critical importance of South-South engagement in such triangular partnership building is the Paris Agreement, which enters into force in 4 days. The 200-nation-strong commitment to universal, legally binding caps on emissions to curb the global rise in temperatures is the result of decades of negotiations, which achieved a milestone treaty in no small part due to the engagement of developing nations. And here I must digress to pay tribute to the United Arab Emirates renewable energy company Masdar, pioneering green energy development and technology transfer in our region, aiding critically challenged countries like Jordan in the development of our wind and solar power. But another example, closer to our home here, of multilateral, multi-sectoral partnership building to address a burgeoning global challenge emanating from our region, sadly lacks such consensus on root causes and solutions. The current calamitous global displacement crisis, the highest number ever recorded, highlights many of the challenges you will be addressing here: climate change and resource scarcity, poverty and marginalization, and the need for more visionary, inclusive, sustainable, human security-based governance. Our region, MENA, and East Asia alone account for around 60% of the global total of 65.3 million forcibly displaced, the global consequences of which we witness daily. Since 2011, over 15 million Syrians have been displaced inside Syria or into neighboring countries and beyond. Syria's neighbors, Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey in particular, are reaching a dangerous saturation point. Lebanon and Jordan have the awful distinction of having the largest per capita refugee populations in the world. In Iraq, almost 4 million people have been internally displaced in the past 2 years alone. Almost 250,000 Iraqi refugees are struggling in Turkey, Jordan, and other host or transit countries. And in 2015, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen accounted for over 50% of the world's total conflict displaced. The vast majority of all displaced throughout our region are living well below the poverty line. 1 out of every 122 people on earth is displaced. There, but for the grace of God, go you and I. Please think about that as you explore and craft future policies, because the implications of such massive suffering are dire, not only today for those immediately affected, but for coming generations everywhere, in the loss of educated and productive human potential required to rebuild conflict regions, in dangerous, unprecedented sectarianism, and the potential drivers of extremism and future violence from loss of hope and confidence in a more secure future. In Jordan, in accordance with the principles of South-South and triangular cooperation, we established a response platform for the Syria crisis in 2014 to ensure a broad-spectrum, coherent response to the multifaceted challenges we face through partnerships among the public sector, civil societies, and donor countries. International aid has covered approximately 60% of our needs. While no official figures are available on bilateral support from regional donors, I know well from firsthand experience in our camps that Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia have supported invaluable humanitarian infrastructure development. Over the past 7 decades, we have worked diligently in Jordan to further our vision of an inclusive, equitable society. Thousands of years of civilization have shaped the basic principles which guide our national development: the open flow of people, ideas, trade, and diversity. We've valued moderation, regional cooperation, and cross-cultural interaction. These principles have enabled us to play a supportive and stabilizing role in our turbulent region by promoting the peaceful settlement of disputes through mediation and peace-building and peacekeeping efforts. The key themes of this conference in relation to sustainable development have long guided our national development priorities, particularly in the areas of poverty eradication, food security, public-private partnerships, green technologies, and of course, economic growth. In my work with the critical global challenges of the displaced, the missing, the marginalized, and those suffering crushing poverty, I often see the seeds of perpetual instability and conflict. But where real investment has been made in human security, in human rights, education, economic empowerment, and women's leadership, I have seen young people, and those of all ages, even older than me, flourish as agents of change who work towards and encourage progress, prosperity, and peace. For societies, economies, and nations to thrive, people must, all people must. This has been the foundation of my own human security-focused initiatives in Jordan and beyond. After my marriage to King Hussein in 1978, I looked at innovative ways to complement public and private development efforts in Jordan and to fill gaps in our socioeconomic policies. The resulting best practice programs, now administered by the King Hussein Foundation, reflected our shared priorities for more equitable, sustainable development, focusing on our most precious resource, our people, as my late husband consistently said. This was not a slogan for King Hussein. This was a very real, everyday preoccupation. These programs introduced an integrated approach to sustainable development to the region, focused on the inextricable linkages among central obstacles to human and sustainable development, including deficits in women's empowerment, knowledge, governance, as well as crises caused by occupation and regional and outside military interventions. Our experience has shown that investing in women's leadership by empowering them with knowledge, training, and economic opportunities promotes local and national stability and prosperity by reducing poverty and hunger, improving health and education. IMF research, in fact, reveals that allowing women to take their proportionate place in a country's labor force can radically increase GDP. And empowered women raise daughters and sons with access to horizons of gender, social, political, and economic possibility. And in our work with host and displaced communities in Jordan, we recognize that this is particularly important for refugee women and their families as well. We all know the old phrase, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I'm not much of a fisherman, but in my experience, the saying should be, teach a woman to fish and everybody eats. In short, investment in women is investment in their children and society's future. Far more than airstrikes and boots on the ground, empowered women combat poverty, desperation, and radicalization. The leadership potential of youth is another myopically underutilized resource. Look anywhere today. Old hierarchical and inflexible power centers are breaking down. It is as important for policymakers to reach out across age barriers as it is across gender, race, creed, or country. This is why the King Hussein Foundation has been acting as a disruptive, innovative force for young people in education, economic empowerment, and entrepreneurship, community service, and cross-cultural understanding as well. Our focus through our Jubilee Institute on the academic and leadership potential of meritorious scholarship students from diverse cultural and social economic backgrounds has yielded remarkable rewards through its emphasis on critical thinking, STEM, e-learning, girls' leadership, citizenship, conflict resolution, and community service. Our students and graduates have contributed to innovative companies such as Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo, and winning awards such as Intel's 2013 Award in Applied Mathematics, inspiring NASA to name a main belt asteroid after that student. And girls, despite being told that IT is an exclusive boys' club, have earned 20th globally in an edutainment app challenge competition. These are just a few of the many young men and women who embody our hope and faith for a future of constructive innovation in our region. Over the past 3 decades, our foundation programs have provided training and capacity-building expertise in 22 countries in the broader Arab and Asian regions. Inshallah, constructively contributing to our larger quest for social equity, cohesion, and peace. Today, as a member of the Arab Foundations Forum, chaired this year by the Dubai-based Emirates Foundation, we are joining our 35 years of experience with other Arab philanthropists who, through dialogue, networking, learning, and collaboration within the Arab region and beyond, are leading a youth initiative in partnership with the OECD, addressing particularly goal number 8 of the SDGs, that calls for sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. The spirit of solidarity that inspires South-South and triangular cooperation creates the space for developing countries to share lessons on policy choices, business models, and technological innovations that have been effective in lifting millions out of poverty. In the light of the objectives and targets of the 2013 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it is clear that strengthened efforts and comprehensive human security-based global partnerships are needed to accelerate progress. Only by working together across borders to focus on a broader concept of human security, by sharing the opportunities and benefits of our world with all people, and by enabling them to contribute in return, can we transcend the deprivation and hopelessness that so often lead to conflict and insecurity within countries and among them. As the United Nations Security General Ban Ki-moon said, the biggest threat to terrorists is not the power of missiles, it is the politics of inclusion. Missiles may kill terrorists, but open, fair, and compassionate governing economic and social systems are the most powerful weapons against extremism. Upholding each other and our common humanity is the only path to security and peace everywhere in the world. I've seen this time and again in the last 4 decades in Jordan and across the globe. Let this be the foundation for the work that you do. It is the essence of the teachings of all great faiths, expressed by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in these words: "No one of you is a true believer unless he wants for his brother that which he wants for himself." All development partners are here this week, and together we can achieve much, much more than we can even imagine on our own. I wish you all a very productive and rewarding Expo. Salam alaikum. Peace be with you.
Shukran Jazilan, Your Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein of Jordan. Teach a woman how to fish, and everyone eats. That is one of the key points I picked up from your marvelous keynote speech. Other words, inclusiveness, partnerships, cooperation, prosperity for all. And in the midst of all that, we need to remove inequalities. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Queen Noor of Jordan. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We will now move to the high-level statements portion, where we are going to hear from our distinguished speakers seated on the podium and on the high table. May I now call upon Mr. Patrice Ignatius Gomez, Secretary General of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, ACP, to deliver his statement. Mr. Gomez, thank you.
Your Majesty, Queen Noor Al Hussein, Excellency Ohe Chidiek, Special Envoy of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, distinguished colleagues of the head table, all protocols observed, it is indeed a great pleasure to be here with you in this wonderland of Dubai, and a distinct honor to address you on behalf of the 79 developing countries of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific Group of States, the ACP Group. I would like to thank the authorities of the United Arab Emirates, as well as those of the Zayed International Foundation, for the marvelous ambience in which Expo Dubai 2016 is being held. Also allow me to thank the United Nations, especially United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, which works every year to organize an expo on South-South cooperation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, 2015 was a watershed year that was rich and fruitful for the international community, with successive and coordinated adoption of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda in July on financial issues and the means of implementing the post-2015 development agenda. Then the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in New York in September, which addresses the universal, indivisible, inclusive global development goals, especially at the heart of which is eradication of poverty, inequality, and hunger. And then the Paris Agreement to reduce vulnerability and make a climate safe for all. These ambitious commitments have brought the international community face to face with international development challenges, but they also provide a context and a way forward towards building a more inclusive, more sustainable, and more prosperous future for our world, where no one is left behind. Following on from the commitments made in 2015, the current challenges from 2016 onwards must be implementation. How can we sustainably and inconclusively transform these commitments into concrete results for the benefit of the people by 2030? What resources or means does the international community have to accomplish the 17 Sustainable Development Goals adopted in New York? There is no single approach to achieve these. All relevant, tested, and innovative options must be tried, enhanced, or explored. The Addis Ababa Action Agenda and the Sustainable Development Agenda formally recognize South-South and Triangular Cooperation as a development cooperation modality that can help us to achieve the SDGs. By placing experience and skills to good use in development cooperation, South-South and Triangular Cooperation has emerged as an innovative and effective tool to achieve the SDGs. We strongly join others in calling for South-South and Triangle cooperation to be promoted and deepened as an innovative, effective, and sustainable development finance modality. Countries in the South have a multitude of development solutions that can be shared and replicated. The Expos and South-South Cooperation for Development, organized each year, demonstrate this. Excuse me. And they must be deepened through mapping our successes and networking across countries and regions for effective knowledge exchange on proven solutions in various development sectors. In conclusion, may I once again convey the ACP Group of States' appreciation of the important facilitation and assistance provided by international organizations, in particular those of the United Nations family, in promoting South-South and Triangle cooperation for effective implementation of the SDGs. I thank you very much.
We want to thank you very much, Mr. Patrice Gomez, Secretary General of the ACP. May I now have the pleasure to call upon Mr. Tegenyewok Getu, who is Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and Associate Administrator of the UN Development Program, UNDP, for his statement. Welcome, Mr. Getu.
Your Majesty, Queen Noor of Jordan, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to address this opening of the 2016 Global South-South Development Expo on behalf of the United Nations Development Program. Allow me to begin by expressing my thanks to Zayed International Foundation for Environment, who, on behalf of the government of the United Arab Emirates, co-hosts the Expo with the United Nations Office of South-South Cooperation. Since its inception in 2008, the Global South-South Development Expo has established itself as a powerful platform to promote economic cooperation and partnership across the globe South in support of developing countries and sustainable development aspiration. This is particularly important now as member states embark on the implementation of the ambitious Transformative Agenda 2015, high among which are the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its associated Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement of Climatic Change. Together, these agreements provide a roadmap towards a fairer, a more equitable, and sustainable world for all. While we rightly celebrate this momentous agreement, we must remember that this is just the beginning of the process. Ambitions must become action and reality. Transforming our world will take concrete efforts by all stakeholders working together through all modalities. As highlighted in the 2030 Agenda, South-South cooperation will play an integral part of an inclusive global partnership to realize the ambitions of these goals and agendas. Over the recent decades, South-South cooperation has been continuous on the rise. Some concrete manifestations of these trends include the emergence of sub-regional and regional development banks that are supplementing more traditional development finance. In 2014, the loan disbursed by the China Development Bank, the Export and Import Bank of China, and the Brazilian National Development Bank amounts to $1,762 million, equal to more than 5 times the amount of loan, which is $328 billion provided by the World Bank. Emerging economies generated a record of 36% of global investment outlaws in 2014, up from 12% in 2007. Chinese, Indian, United Arab Emirates firms have become notable investors in Africa. In terms of annual flow, Chinese foreign direct investment in Africa in 2013-2014 was reportedly 4.4% of the total. Inter-Africa trade is also well growing up, but mostly within sub-regions. From 2010 and 2013, overall, export trade between African countries grew by 50%, and South-South cooperation in making important contribution to social policy and access to social services. Key examples are Brazil and Mexico experience with cash transfer, which have been shared with many countries in Latin America and the sub-region. Overall, experience has shown that all developing countries, regardless of size or the level of development, have accumulated capacities and experience which may be adopted by other developing countries. This expo provides unique opportunity to facilitate such exchange. UNDP's commitment to South-South and triangular cooperation is steady and continuous. Promoting South-South and triangular cooperation is central to UNDP's work, and we have placed it at the heart of our strategic plan. Leveraging our program and operational reach, we have much to offer as a knowledge broker, as a capacity development supporter, and a partnership facilitator and convener. Reflecting our commitment, UNDP support in the area has grown steadily over the past years. In 2015, close to 700 UNDP projects and programs, or double that from 2014, utilized South-South and triangular cooperation as a modality across 132 countries. To take this effort even further, UNDP has prepared a corporate strategy of South-South and triangular cooperation. As part of the strategy, we are launching the SS Mart for the SDGs here at the Expo today and tomorrow. SS Mart is an outline marketplace which will facilitate the matching of demand with supply of South-South and triangular development solutions. UNDP also proudly hosts the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation on behalf of the United Nations system, and are committed to continue supporting the office in system coordination and facilitating global policy dialogue. With UNDP support, UN Development Group, South-South and Triangular Cooperation Task Team, co-chaired by UN South-South Cooperation Team, recently released a report of South-South and Triangular good practices. The report is available here at the Expo. We hope you will find it useful. We are also supporting together the establishment of a global coalition of think tank network of South-South cooperation. The goal is to strengthen the capacity of Southern think tanks to advance research and inform policy dialogue on South-South cooperation in the context of the 2030 Agenda. In conclusion, let me stress that UNDP is fully committed to contribute to the success of this Expo, as we have been ever since in the inception in 2008. This year, we are organizing two solution forums, co-organize a series of events, and have a number of booths on the exhibition floor. I encourage you to participate in the sessions, take the opportunity to talk to UNDP team, and explore how we can work together and strengthen our effort. I thank you and wish you all the best and productive Expo. Thank you.
We thank you very, very much, Mr. Getu. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please, I want to appeal to those participants seated to my right on this side. We need, please, to have you, if you may, move to the center portion of the hall before our distinguished principal arrives in a few minutes. I am pleading with you at the request of the organizers, if you are seated to my right, can you please fill the center portion of the hall? And may I please appeal also to all those to my extreme left, please could you kindly move to the central portion of the hall for us. This is a request from the organizers, and we are sorry for any inconveniences caused. Once again, we want to say thank you to Mr. Tegenyewok Getu for your remarks. It is now my pleasure to call to the podium UN Under-Secretary General Gyan Chandra Acharya, who is the High Representative for the least developed countries, the landlocked developing countries, and the small island developing states. Mr. Gyan Chandra Acharya, please.
Your Majesty Queen Noor of Jordan, Secretary General Envoy and Director for South-South Cooperation, Ambassador Richard Ndura of Uganda and President of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation, fellow colleagues on the podium, Excellencies, distinguished participants. I would like to commend the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation and the Zayed International Foundation for the Environment, representing the government of UAE, for organizing this South-South Development Expo. This meeting is taking place in UAE, a southern country, which has developed not only a strong collaboration with other fellow countries in the south, but also established a record in providing official assistance, besides taking a lead in promoting renewable energy through IRENA. This is so fitting, therefore, that we have South-South Development Expo here. Let me also reiterate that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, the Paris Agreement, and dedicated programs of the least developed, landlocked, and the small island developing states all recognize the role of South-South cooperation in the achievement of global development aspirations. In fact, there is a premium on South-South cooperation in these most vulnerable countries as an important element of international development cooperation and as complement to North-South cooperation. SDGs and climate change agreements are ambitious, comprehensive, with fundamental principle of leaving no one behind, promotion of equality, and transformative change. That will not happen without widest possible collaboration among all the stakeholders at all levels. And this is particularly important for those countries which are at the bottom of the development ladder. The South-South cooperation, despite its own complex challenges, has the ever-growing potential to substantially contribute to the realization of the development aspirations of these countries as we work to transform our economy, society, and the lives of the people and the natural environment around us. First, many countries in the South have made significant inroads in poverty reduction, food and nutrition security, women and youth empowerment, skills development, promoting economic growth, structural transformation, and adaptation to climate change. Such innovation and experience are path-breaking as well. Therefore, scaling them up and speeding them will contribute to achieve SDGs and ambitions of the climate change agreement. Second, because these countries from the emerging South came out of their complex and difficult situation only in recent times, their experiences and modalities of transformation could be adapted by many vulnerable countries to best suit their needs. The lessons and practices would be tremendously helpful, but they also need to leapfrog the process and hence need the experiences of both the North and the South in the new areas of frontier. Third, many economies from the South have transferred themselves to become increasingly dynamic and have contributed to the global economic growth and transformation. Our host is one such example. They have also firmly interlinked themselves with the rest of the world in a mutually beneficial manner. They are also driving global growth with production, consumption, and innovation. These new realities translated into a positive impact on trade and financial flows, technological capabilities, innovation, social change, and economic growth in virtually all countries of the South. These dynamic forces, if further nurtured and expanded, could act as a major instrument in support of the realization of the 2030 Agenda as well as the climate change. As part of its collective advocacy mandate, my office, working with UN OSCE to facilitate South-South transfer of viable sector-specific technologies and innovation. As the UN office entrusted with the responsibility of global follow-up and monitoring commitments of these most vulnerable countries, we recognize the contribution of the South, and we intend to enhance that as we go forward. There is a great opportunity to transform our world, including those who are farthest behind and who are most deprived. We are confident that we will do so by involving all to look for innovation and solutions. I'm also confident that this expo will add more value and substance to the growing collaboration among the countries in the South in all relevant areas. I wish the expo a grand success. Thank you.
We thank you very much, UN Under-Secretary General, Mr. Gyan Chandra Acharya. Excellencies, our next speaker is Mr. Getachew Ngida, who is the Deputy Director General of the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, apologies there, UNESCO. Mr. Ngida, the podium is yours, please.
Your Majesty the Queen, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to attend the opening ceremony of the 2016 Global South-South Development Expo. I wish to thank the government of the United Arab Emirates for organizing this event devoted to enhancing innovation towards achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Innovation in the new development agenda calls for new systems thinking, new ways of operating, and new technologies that focus on finding new solutions to today's complex problems. It calls for leveraging scientific knowledge and technological know-how into products, services, and employment that put the world onto the path of sustainable development. Science, technology, and innovation is essential for the creation of knowledge, for economic growth, and sustainable development. For this, we need to create the right ecosystem. We need to bridge knowledge divides. Moving forward places a premium on national ownership, on the mobilization of effective action and resources at the national, regional, and local levels. This means first strengthening national capacities in science, technology, and innovation on a demand-driven basis. Science capacity is vital for autonomous and therefore sustainable development. This is why UNESCO has worked with 15 countries in Africa to create national STI systems, and we must scale this up. This is the objective of the International Center for STI Innovation through South-South cooperation based in Kuala Lumpur under the auspices of UNESCO. This is also the aim of UNESCO's work to encourage countries to develop innovation hubs in the form of science and technology parks and to develop centers of excellence. An excellent example, ladies and gentlemen, is the network of the African Institutes for Mathematical Sciences, a Pan-African network of centers of excellence for postgraduate education, research, and outreach in the mathematical sciences, which UNESCO is working to scale up across Africa by 2013. As demonstrated in the UNESCO Science Report, innovation is hindered by the weak linkages between academia and industry. Universities are also not sufficiently equipping graduates for the knowledge economy. Sustainable development is being hampered by current skills shortage and skill mismatches between the skills companies are seeking for and what most universities are actually producing. If action is not taken now to reverse current trends, by 2020, the world could have 40 million too few workers with tertiary education relative to demand. To address such challenges, UNESCO is supporting partnership in the Arab region between academia and industry in the field of converging technologies to reorient academia towards solving these problems. While trends indicate that more less developed countries are facing more resource on research and development, it is still insufficient to tackle the myriad problems that could be resolved with the aid of research and development. None of the least developed countries has reached the 1% target of gross domestic products devoted to research and development. Private sector investment in research and development has also yet to be tapped. This is where developing countries and high-income countries diverge the most, because it is the private sector that contributes the lion's share of research expenditure in developed countries. A stronger private sector could therefore make all the difference in boosting investment in research and development in developing countries. Building on a solid knowledge base starts first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, with ensuring the provision of quality education for all. In this connection, UNESCO is producing normative and operational capacity building support to countries and developing countries, inclusive of quality education systems that promote lifelong learning for all. This includes providing demand-driven support for translating the Sustainable Development Goals for Education 2030 agenda into national policies, plans, and budgets, and leading the coordination and review monitoring of SDG 4 Education 2030 at a global and regional level. The challenges associated with sustainable development cannot be resolved by working alone. The 2030 agenda places a clear premium on innovative partnerships and on integration and integrated approaches. UNESCO is supporting such innovative South-South cooperation partnerships. For Science, Technology, and Innovation, and the Regional Humid Tropics of Hydrology and Water Resources Center for Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Supporting innovation cannot be separated from promoting culture and cultural diversity, ladies and gentlemen. There is no innovation possible without a vibrant cultural environment. Culture is therefore also a key element in promoting innovation in the 2030 agenda era. We live in a new age of limits in energy resources and sustainability of our planet. This means we must make far more of the boundless energy of human capacity and ingenuity. We must release the powers of science, technology, and innovation and creativity to craft new solutions that are inclusive, just, and sustainable. Taking this forward requires the full engagement of the international community to promote South-South and triangular cooperation, for which UNESCO is fully committed. Thank you. Shukran.
Shukran jazilan. My apologies. We thank you very much, Mr. Ngira. I wish to call quickly on Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, UN Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environment Program, UNEP. Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, please.
Your Majesty, Queen Noor of Jordan, Excellencies, all protocols observed, and dear friends from the Zayed Foundation, we are very proud to see you organizing this great event. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next few days, these halls will be full of discussions on policy priorities and private sector engagement. I would like to draw your attention to 4 main areas of South-South cooperation that I think have not been highlighted enough: agriculture, water management, green economy, and food and nutrition. Let me start with agriculture. But let me start by telling you about a young Nigerian entrepreneur called Olawale Oje. Olawale has a certificate in sustainable integrated farming systems from Benin. He divides his time between working for a seed company, running his own business to provide support services to all small agriculture business and startups, and volunteering for the Young Professionals for Agriculture Development and the Nigeria Alliance for Science. But Olawale isn't just a very energetic, determined young man. He's a great example of how South-South cooperation helping to accelerate social, economic, and environmental development. Because the Songhai Center, where Olawale studied, is a result of partnership between Zambia and Benin to encourage agricultural partnerships, so people like Olawale now spread the benefits of that cooperation right across the region. In fact, as the pace of South-South cooperation gathers force, it is becoming very clear that it has the potential to transform the world. Look at the trade among developing countries. Between 1990 and 2010, although trade within the same region declined, imports and exports between developing countries grew from around 40 to nearer 50%. However, the real value of South-South cooperation reaches far beyond trade and finance. And this brings me to my second item, which is water. If you take the mighty Mekong River, flowing over 5,000 kilometers through Cambodia, China, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. As the economic artery of Southeast Asia, it hosts the world's largest inland fisheries, worth up to $4 billion a year. And it nourishes rice fields and garden farms worth nearly $5 billion a year. So the Mekong River is actually contributing for $9 billion a year to the economy. So any change in climate change or water resources has huge implications for the entire region, but also for the 60 million people whose livelihoods depend on it. People like Chon Hai and Nu Sohoi, who grew rice near the Mekong, about 100 kilometers from Phnom Penh, every year they must grow enough to feed their families, to replant the following year, and to sell for costs like rent, fertilizers, and loans. Their production cycle used to be 6 rainy months, then 6 dry ones. Now the rains come later and later. That leaves the rice underwater for too long and too late. At best, people like Nu end up paying the rent with food, borrowing money to eat, and sending their children away to earn cash for the rest. At worst, as John well testified, it can mean watching for house floods, your crops down, and your children die for disease. My third example is green economy. It is a great example how government can work together. You should not be surprised if I tell you that middle-income countries are driving the green economy agenda with clean technologies, green finance, integrated waste management, integrated wastewater management, and mass transit systems. Indeed, countries like China, Morocco, and many other here in the Middle East, such as the UAE, are leading the world on renewable energy technologies. Just last week, Dubai hosted a green finance conference. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know where the most innovative ideas on green finance are coming from, go to Sao Paulo, Johannesburg, Singapore, or Shanghai stock exchanges. While air pollution is one of the biggest mass murderers in the world, with 7 million people dying every year due to the silent killer, especially in the global south, any lasting solution will have to take into account transport systems. Curitiba in Brazil is doing just what is needed. Thanks to an integrated urban planning, nearly half of all journeys are on public transport. Less cars means less congestion, less pollution, and less fuel. About 13 times less fuel and 11 times less congestion than Sao Paulo. Today, roughly 85% of Curitiba uses the bus rapid transport system. My fourth example is in the area of food and nutrition. In the health sector, let us take a look at Argentina's successful Pro Huerta. It encourages local communities to produce fresh, organic food for a more nutritious diet, as well as helping about 3.5 million Argentinians. The system has been adopted by other countries, including Brazil, Colombia, Guatemala, and Venezuela. That is already a great example of South-South cooperation. But Haiti has taken the model even further, thanks to support from Argentina and Canada. Good nutrition and a good immune system go hand in hand. So when Argentina was hit by a cholera outbreak in the 90s, the Pro Huerta networks helped to educate people about the disease, food handling, and water and farm management. With Pro Huerta already in place, Haiti was able to follow that example when faced with cholera in the year 2010. Over 90% of the people taking part have a better diet, better health, and have the food costs. In conclusion, let me say that whether in Haiti, in Brazil, in Benin, or the half of dozen countries in the Mekong, dropping that one pebble of partnership creates a massive ripple effect and tackles a whole range of social, economic, and environmental problems. So ladies and gentlemen, since this expo took place for the first time in 2008, the level of engagement from developing countries and from the private sector has grown steadily. The UN Environment Programme witnessed the robustness of this partnership when we hosted the expo in Nairobi in 2013. So for the next few days, we must grab these opportunities with both hands. We must take some bold decisions and build real momentum for lasting change. The futures of Shom, Nu, Olawale, and millions of others like them around the world depend on it. Thank you very much.
We want to thank you very, very much, Mr. Thiao, for your statement. I have a pause here in the program with apologies to Mr. Doug France and apologies to Ambassador Muhammadu Dudulo. After the pause in the program, we are going to return to receive your statements. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the reason for the pause is that we are very shortly expecting the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, the Vice President of this nation, the ruler of Dubai, His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Before he enters the hall, distinguished guests in the very front row, I crave your indulgence and appeal to you that protocol has requested me to plead with you that we move you and place you elsewhere. So everyone in the very front row, with all due apologies, please, we will need to relocate you so that the ruler of Dubai can enter according to protocol. And as we wait for him to come, the engineers are going to give us a short video that shows the preparations that have been going on all this while since the early part of this year, so that the efforts from the United Nations in partnership with the United Arab Emirates, represented by the Zayed International Foundation, that these efforts will come to reality. Let's have the video one now, please. We thank you very much. Distinguished Excellencies, we are going to appeal to you to vacate the platform, and you'll be conducted to this side because you are not able to watch the videos whilst you're there, and there will be other videos to come. I am sorry for that little lapse. Thank you for your understanding, and thank you. Thank you. As the Excellencies and as Her Majesty and the distinguished speakers leave the podium, the Zayed International Foundation also has another short video which we are going to show just before the ruler of Dubai comes to grace this occasion. This video shows how the United Nations, together with the United Arab Emirates, have been working together over the decades. We now have a video on the establishment and the history of the Zayed International Foundation. I think you can do better than that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Shukran jazilan, merci beaucoup, gracias. We just want to thank everyone for your patience, for your understanding so far. We are just awaiting the arrival of His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, to enter the hall. In the meantime, Darshan and the team at the back will keep us busy with some live music before His Excellency, the ruler of Dubai, joins us. We thank you again for your understanding. Thank you. Okay, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to an important portion of this official opening ceremony of the Global South-South Development Expo 2016. And for this segment, I'm delighted to hand you over now to my co-MC and colleague, Ms. Safia Al-Shehi from Abu Dhabi Media. Please welcome her with a round of applause, please. Shukran.
صباح الخير جميعاً. سأنتظر وإياكم في هذه الدقائق وصول راعي الحفل. السيدات والسادة، السلام الوطني لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سيدي سمو الشيخ مكتوم بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، نائب حاكم دبي، راعي الحفل، صاحبة الجلالة الملكة نور الحسين، أصحاب السمو، أصحاب المعالي، أصحاب السعادة، الضيوف الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يشرفني أن أرحب بكم في حفل افتتاح فعاليات الدورة الثامنة للمعرض العالمي للتنمية بدول الجنوب لعام 2016 الذي تستضيفه دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، إيماناً منها بأهمية التضامن والتعاون بين بلدان الجنوب من أجل تحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة 2030. سيدي راعي الحفل، أيها الحفل الكريم، إن الابتكار والتميز أصبح أسلوباً للحياة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وإن تشجيع وتكريم المبادرات الإنمائية والبيئية المتميزة لهو نهج مستمر أرست دعائمه قيادتنا الرشيدة منذ قيام الدولة. يسرني الآن أن أدعو معالي الدكتور ثاني بن أحمد الزيودي، وزير التغير المناخي والبيئة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، ليلقي كلمة الافتتاح، فليتفضل مشكوراً.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سمو الشيخ مكتوم بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، نائب حاكم دبي، أصحاب السمو، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سعدني أن أرحب بكم في فعاليات الدورة الثامنة للمعرض العالمي للتنمية بدول الجنوب 2016، والذي تستضيفه دولة الإمارات ممثلة بمؤسسة زايد الدولية للبيئة، تحت شعار التعاون فيما بين بلدان الجنوب، الابتكار وخارطة الطريق لتحقيق جدول أعمال التنمية المستدامة لعام 2030. ويشرفني أن أتقدم بأسمى آيات الامتنان والعرفان إلى سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، نائب رئيس الدولة، رئيس مجلس الوزراء، حاكم دبي رعاه الله، على تفضله بدعم استضافة هذا الحدث وشموله برعايته الكريمة. الحضور الكريم، منذ انطلاقه قبل 4 عقود تقريباً تحت مظلة الأمم المتحدة، شهد التعاون فيما بين بلدان الجنوب تطورات مهمة على أكثر من صعيد، وقد وفر هذا التعاون فرصاً حقيقية للبلدان النامية في مساعيها الفردية والجماعية من أجل تحقيق النمو الاقتصادي المضطرد والتنمية المستدامة. ولا شك في أن الاهتمام الذي توليه دول الجنوب لتطوير التعليم والتركيز على أدوات البحث العلمي والابتكار والتكنولوجيا وبناء القدرات مستندة في ذلك إلى إرث حضاري وموارد متنوعة وغنية، وقد حول العديد من تلك الدول إلى قوى سياسية واقتصادية كبرى وفاعلة في محيطها الإقليمي وفي المحيط العالمي، بل تحولت بعض الدول الجنوب إلى نماذج تنموية. وقد ساعدها ذلك في تعزيز قدرتها على بلورة حلول وممارسات مبتكرة للتحديات التنموية المتزايدة التي تواجهها، بما في ذلك تحديات التغير المناخي والتنمية المستدامة، وعلى تضييق الفجوة المعرفية والتقنية بين دول الشمال والجنوب وتعزيز فرص التعاون بينهما. الحضور الكريم، يمثل التعاون الدولي مبدأ أساسيا في سياستنا الخارجية، والذي أرساه القائد المؤسس المغفور له بإذن الله الشيخ زايد بن سلطان آل نهيان طيب الله ثراه، ورسخته قيادتنا الرشيدة برئاسة سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ خليفة بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس الدولة حفظه الله. وبالإضافة إلى علاقاتها الثنائية، عملت دولة الإمارات على بناء علاقات تعاون وشراكة مع مختلف المنظمات والتكتلات الإقليمية والدولية. وانطلاقاً من التزامنا الراسخ بالمشاركة الفعالة في الجهود الدولية المبذولة لإيجاد حلول مستدامة للقضايا ذات الأولوية على الصعيد العالمي، خاصة ذات الصلة بأهداف التنمية المستدامة، عززت دولة الإمارات خلال السنوات الماضية دورها في التعاون الدولي، خاصة مع دول الجنوب، وذلك عن طريق إطلاق سلسلة من المبادرات العالمية تركزت على مجموعة من القطاعات الحيوية كالتعليم والصحة والمياه والطاقة وبناء القدرات. وأشير على سبيل المثال إلى المبادرات العالمية التي أطلقها في السنوات الماضية سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم في مجالات مكافحة الفقر والمرض ونشر المعرفة وتمكين المجتمع والابتكار، والتي تشرف عليها مؤسسة مبادرات محمد بن راشد العالمية، وكذلك مبادرة سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان ولي عهد أبو ظبي ونائب القائد الأعلى للقوات المسلحة لمكافحة الأمراض المعدية واستئصال شلل الأطفال في العديد من الدول النامية. كما أشير في هذا السياق إلى جهودنا في إقامة مشاريع الطاقة المتجددة في العديد من الدول النامية، وإنشاء صندوق للشراكة مع دول المحيط الهادي ومع دول الكاريبي، علاوة على المنح والمساعدات التنموية التي تواصل دولة الإمارات تقديمها للدول النامية. وبالإضافة إلى ذلك المشاركات الدولية في الفعاليات والمؤتمرات المتعلقة بالشؤون البيئية وتغير المناخ، واستضافة وتنظيم مثل تلك الفعاليات والنشاطات في الدولة، واستضافة الدولة لمنظمات عالمية تنموية مثل الوكالة الدولية للطاقة المتجددة إيرينا والمنظمة العالمية للاقتصاد الأخضر التي أعلن عن إنشائها مؤخراً. ومن المهم التأكيد في هذا السياق على أن مساهمة دولة الإمارات في تعزيز التعاون بين دول الجنوب أو بين الشمال والجنوب أو غيرها من التكتلات الدولية إنما تعبر بصورة أساسية عن التزامنا الأصيل والراسخ بالمشاركة في الجهود الدولية لإيجاد حلول مستدامة للمشاكل الدولية وتطبيقها، وهو ما أبرزته بوضوح رؤية الإمارات 2021، والتأكيد على إيماننا بأن التعاون والتضامن الدولي لم يعد ضرورة ملحة فقط، بل هو السبيل الوحيد لبناء مستقبل آمن وسعيد ومستدام للبشرية. الحضور الكريم، أن استضافة دولة الإمارات لهذا المعرض والمنتدى العالمي سيتيح فرصة كبيرة لتبادل المبادرات والتجارب الإنمائية الناجحة بين الدول في مواجهة التحديات الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والبيئية، ويطرح حلولاً تنموية تعكس تجارب ناجحة في عدد من الدول تغطي مجالات الشباب والمرأة والطاقة وتنويع مصادر الماء والغذاء. ومن المؤكد أن فرص تبادل المعروفات والخبرات والتجارب التي سيوفرها المعرض ستشكل مساهمة مهمة لاستكشاف سبل جديدة للتعاون وبناء شراكات أكثر قوة تعزز قدراتنا على مواجهة التحديات التنموية الحالية والمستقبلية. وكما لعبت دول الجنوب دورا هاما في تحقيق الأهداف التنموية الألفية، فنحن على ثقة من أنها قادرة بما تملكه من قوة بشرية هائلة وكفاءات عالمية وقدرات تقنية وموارد غنية ومتنوعة وخبرات وممارسات وتجارب على المساهمة في تحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة 2030. مرة أخرى أكرر ترحيبي بكم جميعا في دبي، متمنيا لكم طيب الإقامة والتوفيق والنجاح، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كل الشكر لمعالي الدكتور ثاني الزيودي. والآن مع كلمة معالي الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة بان كي مون.
Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I am pleased to convey my greetings to the Global South-South Development Expo. I thank the government of the United Arab Emirates for hosting this important gathering with the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation. Countries of the South are vital to global economic success and to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I welcome your decision to highlight the central role of South-South and triangular cooperation, focusing on green technology transfer, industrial innovation, and global health and food security. These cross-cutting challenges are at the heart of the SDGs. I urge you to seize this opportunity to engage, build bridges, and develop sustainable strategies together. I wish you a productive and rewarding Expo. Shukran jazilan.
شكراً لمعالي الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة. سيدات والسادة، الآن مع كلمة رئيس اللجنة رفيعة المستوى للجمعية العامة للأمم المتحدة للتعاون فيما بين بلدان الجنوب، معالي السفير ريتشارد نودورا المندوب الدائم لجمهورية يوغندا لدى الأمم المتحدة، فليتفضل مشكوراً.
Your Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE Vice President, Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, Queen Noor Al Hussein of Jordan, His Excellency Dr. Tuwan Ahmed Al Zayed, the UAE Minister of Climate Change and Environment, Professor Dr. Mohammed Ahmed bin Fahad, Chairman, Higher Committee, Zayed, International Foundation for the Environment, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the Global South to South Development Expo. I do this on behalf of the Bureau and membership of the United Nations General Assembly High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation. Our special thanks go to the government of the United Arab Emirates through our gracious host, Zayed International Foundation for the Environment, and to the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation for organizing this annual event that affords us the invaluable opportunity to celebrate and showcase Southern innovations in tackling the development challenges of the South. The Global South has come a long way. Over the past 4 decades, we have borne witness to unprecedented economic growth and expansion of incomes, increased regional and international trade, hundreds of millions lifted out of poverty, and a growing middle class in many countries of the South. The strong economic performance and other successes of many countries in the South in recent years have ushered in a range of new realities with important implications on the options available to improve the human conditions globally. South to South and triangular cooperation are recognized as being essential to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Advancements in ICT provide new tools for our people, governments, and the private sector to respond to numerous challenges in health, education, security, amongst many others. Fortunately, many solutions in this area are emerging from the South. Technology hubs in my region in Africa are championing innovative solutions to everyday challenges, driven mainly by a youthful population eager to contribute to national and global development objectives. In light of these contributions, the pivotal role of South-South cooperation has recently been emphasized in the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Reduction, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development, and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Furthermore, the international community has underscored that when equipped with proven southern solutions, the United Nations system can play a catalytic role in facilitating the scaling up of South-South and triangular cooperation initiatives for effective development. Given impressive progress, I would caution against complacency. Gains have been uneven across the South, and many countries continue to face extreme poverty, rampant inequality, malnutrition, vulnerability to climate and weather-related shocks, and other challenges. It's a big concern that about 2.2 billion people still live in abject poverty. 80% or the majority of the population in the South lack comprehensive social protection, while 12% suffer from chronic hunger. Millions suffer from acute shortage of essential infrastructure. 2.6 billion people do not have adequate sanitation. 1.4 billion people still have no reliable electricity, and 900 million lack access to clean water. This week here in Dubai, we will hear about Southern Grown Development Solutions that address many of these cross-cutting challenges, including through poverty eradication, food security, public-private partnerships, green technology transfer, economic growth, job security, and economic empowerment, industrial innovation, green economies, and global health. I'm glad this expo offers an opportunity for us to engage with each other, to build bridges, and take a closer look at what has worked at the national, regional, and global levels, including means for their replication and scaling up with the support of all partners to ensure greater development impact toward the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. Finally, I would like to once again thank all our United Nations partners who will demonstrate their best practices at this expo, particularly the organizers, the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, as well as a host, the government of the United Arab Emirates, through the Zayed International Foundation for the Environment. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm pleased and honored to be with you this week.
الشكر الجزيل لمعاليك. الحضور الكريم، يسعدني الآن أن أدعو سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور محمد أحمد بن فهد رئيس اللجنة العليا رئيس المنتدى والمعرض ليلقي كلمة مؤسسة زايد الدولية للبيئة المضيفة للحدث، فليتفضل مشكوراً.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، وأسعد الله صباحكم جميعا. سيدي سمو الشيخ مكتوم بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب حاكم دبي حفظكم الله، الملكة نور الحسين ضيفة الشرف في المؤتمر، سيدي سمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، سيدي معالي الفريق ضاحي خلفان تميم نائب رئيس الشرطة والأمن العام بدبي، أصحاب المعالي الوزراء، أصحاب السعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يوم جميل حقيقة، يعني في تعاون مع التعاون فيما بين الجنوب من قبل عدة سنوات في حوار مستمر أن نستضيف مثل هذا المؤتمر العالمي. نعرف أن في كفة واحدة الجنوب وفي الكفة الأخرى الشمال، ولكن ما بينهما هناك رابط يدشن مسيرة لصالح الإنسانية أينما وجدت. هذه الريادة سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم حفظه الله. نشكر مكتب التعاون في الأمم المتحدة أن مشينا معاهم ونسقنا معاهم مع زميلتي حقيقة الدكتورة مشكان العور التي بذلت جهدا مشرفا ومضنيا أن نصيغ مصفوفة مستلزمات التنمية في القرن أو في نصف القرن 21 بما سطره سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم من مبادرات تنتشر اليوم في أكثر من 160 دولة. ملايين بل بلايين من البشر يستفيدون من هذه المبادرات في مجال الصحة، في التعليم، في المياه الصالحة للشرب، في التنمية الزراعية، في التنمية الاقتصادية، في الاقتصاد الأخضر، وعد لا نهائي. فلذلك المؤتمر بني على هذا الأساس. اليوم نحن لا يخفى على القاصي ولا الداني ما يمر به العالم الثالث عموما من مشكلات اجتماعية ومن حروب طاحنة ومن نقص في الزراعة ونقص في نقل التقنيات والفقر المدقع وخلافه. التعاون فيما بين الجنوب يجب أن يتم كذلك مباركة الشمال. بدون مباركة الشمال المتطور تقنيا لن يستطيع الجنوب أن ناخذ بيده. اليوم نشهد الهجرات الغير المشروعة، وطبعا هاي نتيجة طبيعية للتفاوت الدخلي والتفاوت في التقدم والتفاوت في التقنيات وفي مستويات المعيشة بين الدول المتقدمة والدول الفقيرة. ولكن كمل المآسي، وسوف تظل هذه الهجرات الغير المشروعة إلى أن نوجد توافق وتقارب في المستوى بين الشمال والجنوب. اليوم الاقتصاديين خذوا فكر السياسيين فبطروا الاقتصاد عن الإنجن أن يعمل، لأنهم رسخوا مبادئهم وفقا للسياسة بالإمكانيات المتاحة والشركات العابرة، ولكن نسوا مبدأ مهم ما نسطره في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، أن أساس التنمية هو القيادة. فنحن اليوم سعداء حقيقة سيدي راعي الحفل بمباركة دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة على عقد هذا المؤتمر، لأن بالفعل يمثل للحضور الكريم وللعالم أجمع، حتى نحن مجتمعنا مجتمع زايد وراشد، مجتمع خليفة ومحمد بن راشد، يعني استقطابنا للجاليات من مختلف العالم يشهدوا ويساهموا ويبنوا في النهضة الموجودة في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، ويكون هناك تأثير مزدوج ينعكس على هذه الوفود من الفنيين والعاملين والخبراء في عودتهم إلى أوطانهم. فلذلك نحن نخلق نموذج كذلك تنمية مرتدة إلى بلاد الجنوب. آلاف المبادرات سنويا تدشنها مبادرات سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد، كما ذكر معالي وزير التغير المناخي والبيئة. منذ عشرات السنوات وقبله مبادرات المؤسسين. هذه التجربة جديرة بأن تسطر حقيقة بمعالم في مختلف دول الجنوب. من ناحية أخرى كذلك نسعى أن نوجد نوع من التكامل بين أقطار الجنوب، لا التنافس، التكامل في الموارد والتكامل في الصناعات والتكامل في التبادل التجاري والتكامل في السياحة والتكامل في التجارة. التنافس قاتل لمن ينهض من التنمية، ولكن التكامل هو البناء. وهذه هي أفكار سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم. أعرج أخيرا إلى مؤسسة زايد الدولية للبيئة، رسالة محبة وسلام أراد بها سيدي صاحب السمو نائب رئيس الدولة راعي الجائزة، تحمل إرث المغفور له الشيخ زايد بن سلطان آل نهيان طيب الله ثراه للإنسانية جمعاء من أقصى الأرض في غربها إلى أقصى الشرق. نقدم أن دولة الإمارات قيادة وشعبا تسعى إلى ترسيخ مفاهيم العدالة والمساواة والتوافق بين البشر. أتمنى حقيقة سيدي راعي الحفل بتشريفكم لهذا المؤتمر أن الحضور يصدرون بروتوكولا تعاونيا. المشاكل معروفة، ولكن نسعى أن نوجد مباشرة في الحلول الملموسة، واضعين نصب عيننا أن هناك قادة يدعمون هذه المسيرة، وعلى رأسهم سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
إذن كلمة حملت رسالة سامية ودعوة إماراتية لأن تقف الإنسانية وقفة متكاملة من أجل صالح الإنسانية. الشكر لسعادة الدكتور محمد بن فهد. حضورنا الكريم، الآن مع فيلم قصير عن المعرض الدولي للتنمية في دول الجنوب.
People, planet, prosperity, partnership, peace. Without action, these are planet, prosperity, partnership, peace. Without action, these are mere words.
نعتذر حضورنا الكريم لهذا الخلل الفني. إذن دعوني أنتقل بكم إلى هذه الدعوة، والتي يشرفني أن أرفعها لسمو راعي الحفل ولجلالة الملكة نور الحسين وكبار الضيوف الكرام لافتتاح المعرض. وأرجو من بقية الحضور الكرام البقاء في أماكنهم ومشاهدة الافتتاح على الشاشة. كل الشكر والتقدير لسمو الشيخ مكتوم بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم وجلالة الملكة نور الحسين، ولأصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، ولضيوف البلاد الكرام وكل الحاضرين، متمنين لكم فعاليات مفيدة وممتعة. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your patience and understanding. You can remain seated in this hall and witness everything that is happening in the exhibition hall on the screen right to my left here. So we will please appeal to you to just remain seated and watch the developments there. In the meantime, we are going to call upon our final two speakers from the OIC and also from the OECD to please come back on the stage so that whilst we are having the exhibition opened, we can have the pleasure of taking their statements, please. May I invite Mr. Doug France and Ambassador Mohamedou Doudou Lo, please kindly return to the high table. We thank you for your understanding and apologies for the interruption. We thank you. Mr. Doug France, Ambassador Doudou Lo, we thank you again. You see that we've, as they say, probably saved the best for last. So please be comfortable. We thank you again for your understanding. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure now to invite to the podium the Deputy Secretary General of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, Mr. Doug France, to give us his remarks. Mr. France, it's your podium now, please.
Well, this is a bit of an anticlimax, isn't it? Distinguished guests and excellencies, those of you who are still in the room, it's an honor for me to be here today to address you. The OECD is a strong supporter of the South-South Development Expos. We've been involved for the past 6 years. This forum we found is a great place to share knowledge and exchange best practices on development cooperation. It also strengthens partnerships which are essential to achieving our shared goals. Today, the 2030 Agenda is our common agenda. We are all committed to leaving no one behind. Essential to that goal is recognizing a new development paradigm. The traditional North-South divide is outdated, and business as usual is dead. We must set aside the old divides between developed nations and developing ones. Poverty, inequality, and unsustainable consumption patterns exist in all our countries, and all of us have work to do. If we don't do that work together, we will not meet the goals we have set. Let me share with you 3 concrete actions that describe how the OECD is working with others to go from the world we have to the world we want to have. First, we are implementing goal number 17, partnerships. Partnerships combine complementary strengths of all the actors involved. That includes the private sector and civil society, and it includes OECD countries and G77 countries. At the OECD, we are working to build better partnerships through open and transparent dialogue and by becoming a more diverse and global organization. Second, we are embracing the diversity of today's development cooperation landscape. Concessional development finance reached $184 billion worldwide last year, an all-time high. But almost 20% came from countries that are not members of the OECD's Development Assistance Committee, the old club, if you will. That total doesn't reflect the full value of the in-kind contributions, exchanges, and trainings that are hallmarks of South-South cooperation. So the actual total is larger, perhaps much larger. We need to know. We need a better way to count so we can more effectively direct our resources where they are needed the most. In an effort to capture the full scope of assistance, the Development Assistance Committee at the OECD developed a new measuring method, Total Official Support for Sustainable Development, or TOSSD. The goal is to understand the new trends shaping the development finance landscape. It's a work in progress, and I invite all of you to contribute to its development. And just so there's no confusion, let me stress that TOSSD will not reduce commitments from official development assistance by the OECD countries. Despite the new players, official development assistance remains vital, and it's not going away. In fact, we will continue to push our members to meet their commitment to spend 0.7% of gross national income on official development assistance. And since we are here in Dubai, let me congratulate the United Arab Emirates for providing more than 1% of its gross national income as official development assistance in recent years. This is an exemplary performance. Although the UAE is not a member of the DAC, it is a participant or an observer, and we hope that we'll set its sights soon on joining. Let me now turn to my third and final point. It's time to move beyond the traditional North-South divide and adopt a more inclusive discourse. Certainly, that's one of the main topics here at the South-South Expo. But we believe part of the answer is also triangular cooperation. This means combining the strengths of different providers and recipients to create innovative solutions that draw from across the divides. Last year, we conducted a survey on triangular cooperation. I would like to thank those of you who are here who contributed to that work. We've just published the results in a report called Dispelling the Myths of Triangular Cooperation. We found that triangular cooperation remains highly relevant. More project data and evaluations are now available, and they point to an increase in the number of projects, their budgets, and their durations. Triangular cooperation is not a niche activity. There is a great variety of triangular cooperation in terms of scale, scope, regions, sectors, and project types. Finally, triangular cooperation can be especially effective at creating partnerships, building trust, strengthening networks, and increasing intercultural understanding. The progress of recent years gives us hope. We know what works, and we're learning how to combine our efforts better. The bottom line is that we must work together, listen to each other, and combine our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much.
We thank you very much, Mr. Doug France, Deputy Secretary General of the OECD. Thank you for those brilliant remarks, especially the congratulatory part, thanking the UAE for contributions to development, financial contributions to development. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving now to our last but not least speaker. We are going to hear now from the Director General. We are going to hear now from the Director General for Economic Affairs for the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, OIC, His Excellency, Ambassador Muhammadu Dudu Lo. Please, with a round of applause, let's welcome him to the podium. Your Excellency.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished participants to this Global South-South Development Expo 2016, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Let me first of all, before delivering this message, on behalf of the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, His Excellency Mr. Iyad Amin Madani, express my gratitude to the government of the United Arab Emirates for hosting this expo. I also wish to commend the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation and the Zayed International Foundation for Environment for the elaborate preparation made for this important event. You will recall that since 1978, Buenos Aires Plan of Action for Promoting and Implementing Technical Cooperation among Developing Countries, South-South cooperation has been steadily gaining momentum and has shown encouraging trends. South-South cooperation is now recognized as an important complementary source not only of financial, global, and regional development, but also of knowledge and experience in meeting critical development challenges in specific countries. Accordingly, this expo is yet another opportunity for all stakeholders to assess what has been achieved and to design the course of future action. Ladies and gentlemen, 57 member organization of Islamic cooperation has continued to be a South-South cooperation platform since its inception. In its attempts to strengthen and intensify cooperation among its member states, the OIC has initiated various programs and projects aimed at narrowing the development gap among them and promoting sustainable development in OIC region. Such initiatives include promotion of trade and investment, raising productivity and upgrading infrastructure, strengthening capacity in areas as agriculture, tourism, and transport. Similarly, the new OIC 2025 Program of Action, which was adopted by the 13th Islamic Summit Conference held in Istanbul, Turkey, in April 2016, is aimed at developing and implementing concrete projects in many critical areas to the development of OIC member states in agriculture, infrastructure, education, environment, information, and communication technologies, among others. It is worth mentioning here that the goals of the OIC 2025 Program of Action complement the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, of the United Nations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the foregoing OIC efforts take place in an environment of continued global economic showdown and political transitions in certain countries of our region. Therefore, promoting South-South and triangular cooperation is absolutely critical for successful implementation of the various OIC programs and projects. Accordingly, OIC, in pursuit of its economic agenda, deepens further its relation with international organizations, including United Nations and its various agencies. In this regard, the OIC has considerably intensified its collaboration with the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation for the execution of its projects in the domain of rail transportation, tourism, cotton rehabilitation, capacity building, as well as assistance to Somalia and Yemen. The hallmark of such exercise is to develop engaging partnership to support national process for sustainable development through investment trade, capacity building, technology transfer, and exchanging technical, financial, and institutional knowledge in support of finding solutions to common and individual development challenges in OIC member states. It is in this regard that the Solution Forum on UN OIC collaboration in promoting the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which is being organized as one of the side events of this Expo tomorrow afternoon, will identify some joint projects and activities in support of the OIC member state efforts towards achieving SDGs as well as the OIC 2025 Program of Action. I'm certain that in this pivotal time, the Global South-South Development Expo will provide viable frameworks to support developing countries, including OIC member states, in their efforts to foster socio-economic growth and sustainable development. As I look forward to your robust deliberations and silent recommendation at the end of this Expo, let me assure you that the OIC will continue to explore all ways to collaborate with you for the realization of internationally agreed development goals. In this spirit, let me conclude and wish you all the success. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Shukran Jazilan. Merci beaucoup, Ambassador Muhammadu Dudu Lo. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the official opening of this Global South-South Development Expo. Please, for the next few minutes, you are free to take a tour of the exhibition hall just to my left here. And then from there, you can please proceed to have lunch. We expect you to be back in this hall, ladies and gentlemen, by 2 p.m. for the start of our high-level leadership roundtable event, which is starting at 2 p.m. The high-level leadership roundtable will be followed by 2 plenary sessions. Plenary session number 1 is about UN perspectives on partnerships for climate action. And then the second one is about the role of the private sector in joining forces with the United Nations to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And then let me just recap that at 7 p.m. today, we are inviting all of you, all the delegates, all the participants, to join us for dinner at the Reem Al Bawadi restaurant. This is on Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Boulevard in downtown Dubai. Please, you don't have to struggle to get here. We kindly ask you that by 6:30, to my extreme left, there is an entrance there at the exhibition entrance of this edifice. Buses will be available to make your transportation to the dinner comfortable. And straight from the dinner, the buses will take you back to your respective hotels. Let me also mention that for the rest of the week, we are all going to be meeting in this hall every morning at 9 a.m. And so on that note, all that is left for me to say is enjoy the exhibition hall to my left, enjoy lunch, and we will see you back here at 2 p.m. prompt. Thank you again, and see you later. Thank you. just a quick word for those who are on Twitter. Please, if you're on Twitter, you can keep up with all the events that are happening here at the Expo. Hashtag GSSD 2016. I repeat, the hashtag for this Expo is hashtag GSSD 2016. Thank you again.